Welcome to Viseven Co-Creators, the podcast where we drop job titles, forget actually corporate definitions, and talk about actually what happens between meetings. So let's get into it. And today I have two participants. That's Lucas Laroz, our regional delivery director, and Damian Suarez, delivery manager. First question I have here to both of you, let's say. Let's imagine when someone outside Viseven asks, so what do you do for a living? You know, what's a non-corporate answer?
Yeah, I can go first. When I would say, even when the family asks, what do you do for a living? The easiest answer is to mention that, what do I do? I try to connect as much people as possible from a client to inside our company as well. So I always like to say I'm like a bridge in between what the client needs and how and when we execute things, and we give the client what they're looking for. So it's a way of saying this is how we help the client make their wishes come true, while overseeing our team make the right decisions and coaching as we go.
Yeah, I think I usually kind of frame in a similar way, but maybe I use another way. I always put myself as a translator, I would say, because I need to constantly translate what the client needs or what they say, so our internal teams can understand that, right? And then when the team internally reply something very technical, I need to also translate that to the business part, right? So they can actually understand what they mean, right? Because it seems that both sides speak different languages, so we are in the middle making sure that everything works fine, right? So yeah, that's another way to put it maybe. But yeah, I love the Lucas answer. Yeah.
Next point, next angle of our conversation. What skills save you the most during your normal work day? Let's say if we're talking about coffee management, it also counts.
Yeah, definitely this ability to understand the client needs and to be able to translate and communicate them properly is like a definitely must skill. Because what I have noticed based on my experience is that most of the problems that can appear in any project is due to having the proper communication in place, right? And even when you are working with different cultures or with people across the globe, right, with different time zones, definitely you need to be able to speak in the proper way, right? And as I said, the technical language, the business language, it's not the same if you are speaking about something like very at the operational level, like very tactical. If you compare that with the discussion that you will have with C-level, right, when you need to discuss something more strategically, right? So I think this is something that we constantly need to do and adapt when we are working. I think probably Lucas is facing the same, that depending on the stakeholders that we are speaking with, we need to adapt, right? How to communicate, right? So everyone can understand the things that we are doing, the value that we are providing, right? At the end, everyone stays happy, right? That's the main goal, right? To keep the client happy, to keep the internal team happy. So yeah, in one word, I would say, yeah, definitely the translation part. I keep saying that. For me, it's like the best skill and the one that has helped me the most, I would say.
Yeah. That's a very good answer. You know, I will actually add to what Dami said, because I fully agree with everything. I would add maybe 2 points. One is what, I would call it systems thinking. And the reason I say this is because there's this big thing of how do we make sure that we don't fail? Well, the first thing is we need to analyze what could be the cause for failure. And usually it can be, you will have many things. You can have, talk about processes, tooling, people, budget, expectations that are drifting out of alignment. So this concept of system thinking is what allows us to just make sure that we have all those different elements in sight. We know how to interact across different regions, across different teams, especially when we talk about, having hybrid and distributed team setups across the globe. It's really, really important that these models are in place so we can understand how to manage expectations, how to manage predictability, manage people, of course. We never should forget that we need to manage people as well, because we're all humans. We all have lives behind work, and that also affects the way we do things. And that actually connects to the other point I wanted to mention, which is building relationships for long-term partnership. And this actually goes in two different ways, one with our clients and the other one internally. When we talk about the clients, and I've been saying this for a long time, that one-off projects are like no longer the norm in the industry, especially when we talk about, pharma and life sciences. Clients are looking for what? For a partner who will understand their business, who can adapt with them over time, who can grow with them, who can deliver consistent value and build trust. Trust, I think, is such a big thing for every step of the way in a project or a relationship. And building this long-lasting relationship means maintaining this trust throughout transparency, being predictable, being able to have honest conversations, and frankly, sometimes very hard conversations. But when things are under pressure and we need to manage situations and people and deliverables, this strong relationship also will reduce friction, will speed up the decision making, will turn our delivery teams into a strategic partner rather than just this execution team that used to be years and years ago in the industry. So I fully agree with everything that Dami said, and I would probably add those 2 points.
Let's be honest, did you plan this career path, or you did just slowly happened, all this slowly happened while you were busy doing something else?
I go first.
Yeah, you can take that one.
Yeah, I would probably say my case is the second one, because I don't think my path was very linear, I would say, but at the end, I think it actually turned out to be an advantage. I initially had a degree in finance. I mean, I am a CPA, a certified public accountant, so my initial roles were more related to the banking industry. I work specifically in a bank. I work in consultancy for the banking industry, right? But then I thought that it will be nice to also have some knowledge and experience in IT, right? So then I started studying I have another degree in system information, which is related to the IT field, right? And also a master degree in digital marketing. And in that moment of time, I tried to, let's say, test myself in different roles. So I work as a pre-sales, I work as a project manager as well, I work as an integration analyst. So I think I have different roles addressing different needs inside the company, but all of them taught me or helped me to develop different skills that I am applying currently, right? Because if I'm speaking about my financial background, I think that's very useful when you need to understand things like revenue, margin, the invoicing, right? How to deal with the cost of the project, right? So that is really helpful. If I'm speaking about my roles as an integration analyst, let's say, I also learned one key skill that Lucas also mentioned, that is this possibility to think in a systemic way, just to know how to connect parts, because when working in the pharma industry, there is a lot of complexity, right? So in order to understand the landscape, you need to have the ability to see the big picture and to understand how things connect between each other, and as you also mentioned, how to go from point A to point B, right? So in some cases it's not that straightforward, and you need to see how you can connect the dots. So definitely need to have this systemic way or systemic approach. It's helpful. And yeah, in pre-sales, for example, I was able to ask the proper questions, right, to understand the client needs, because this is very common that what the client says they want is not what the client needs or thinks they need. So in order to discover that, you need to know how to ask the right questions, right? So again, to summarize, I think I have different experiences, but all of them help me somehow shape my current profile, let's say, like this mix and combination. I have seen other people take different paths, like more linear, like maybe it was a developer, then switch to a tech lead or the PM, and then to delivery, and then to regional lead, right? But yeah, I think in both cases it's applicable, because that's the beauty of this role. You have the chance to address multiple aspects. It's like, for me, it's like I'm owning my own company. Like each account that I have to handle, it's like my small company, right? So I need to, I have to make sure that the client growth. So I am doing the best I can to keep like everything in a healthy way, right? So I think that's my case, at least.
Thanks for doing the intro for me, and that was wonderful. Because every time we talk, we have this conversation where I say I did not plan to follow exactly this career path, and then Dami explains it, and I'm like, maybe I did plan for it somehow. Or I hear his story, and I'm like, I think his story is definitely more unplanned than mine. I started my career as a software engineer, and I have been working in very, very highly regulated industries, so I'm very familiar with all this since day one. And while I remember this constant thought when I was, a software engineer, is that why are we building this? Because we would have, ticket stories, but by the end of the day, I was thinking, where is the story going? Who is using this? How are they using what I am building? Because the way I was looking at it, in my eyes, if you look at coding, software engineering, it's the closest thing to magic in real life. There's nothing there. In a few hours, you can appear things out of nowhere. Make those things be real. To me, it's like magic. But I wanted to know where that magic was going to, and who was using it, and how they were using it. Because if I understood that, then I can probably give feedback and say, hey, I can actually do this, and that, which will make the user happier, and it's not a big deal. So with those thoughts, I started changing roles, and I remember I became a Scrum Master with a very technical background, mixing things with DevOps at that time, heavily relying on metrics and building our own metrics and measuring KPIs for the team, which actually that led me into a completely different path, which was working as or leading a team of professional services for software implementation, and growing a team from 3 people to like 50 people in the span of 1 year, and that was a huge thing. But you know what? I was still missing the technical side of things, which led me back to just going to work as an engineering manager, director of technology, and eventually, becoming a regional delivery lead, going through the path of delivery manager, delivery director, and coming into this role, which I think is a perfect blend of personally everything that I love, where I can have a client-facing conversation, build relationships. I can have technical conversations with the client. I can have technical conversations with the team internally, play this translator role that Dami was mentioning as well, where we help everyone understand each other and make sure that we're predictable, we know what we're doing, and everyone has understanding of what's coming down the pipe. So as you can see, there's something very interesting about the delivery role in general, which is, even though we all will match the job description, the classic job description, you can tell that we all have such different styles. And I think that is beautiful, because regardless of the team where you go, you will get things done and you will get the delivery done. But every delivery manager will come and add their own style to it, which in my opinion, is something wonderful. Because we get to understand and learn things from one another all the time, and I think that community gets built, and we can interact and share a lot of opinions and ideas.
Because every role has like its, oops moments, and how actually you can discover, maybe you can think about first signs that something might go wrong, out of track, something might be missed, what are these first signs?
I think some of the red flags that we would see before things actually go wrong, you can identify that something's off or something will be wrong in the future. And I think that's also a very, very good skill for a delivery manager to have in general, which is just staying one step ahead of the need or staying one step ahead of the wave of what's coming. And how do we identify this? Well, I can tell you, if you don't have clear ownership between the different people in a project, in an account, that usually will lead into issues, because nobody really knows who is responsible for what. Nobody will really know who is going to be accountable for each of the pieces. So that eventually will lead into an unpleasant conversation. I can tell you that much. So I would say that's one point. Then not being able to identify dependencies and make sure those are clear ahead of time. When you don't identify the dependencies, then you're going to be executing something, and all of a sudden you're blocked, and you get surprised. And that surprises are the last thing that we want in a project. We want predictability. We want full understanding. And even when I say dependencies, this might not be in a process or a specific deliverable, but it might even be in individuals. Which is why, at least as part of my role, I think it's very important to work on building scalable processes, focusing on the process itself and how we make things happen rather than depending on specific roles. So this would actually enable the delivery regardless of any situation. What else? Well, finally, I think I can add one more, which is unclear or a misalignment between the client expectations and the reality of what we're doing. This is a very common thing that has also a very straightforward fix, which is keeping communication very straightforward. Managing the communication, as Dami said at the beginning, how do you connect and ensure that you are sharing the right story depending on who the stakeholder is, and making sure that everyone has the right information and can self-serve of the information as they need throughout the project. So managing those expectations, managing the communication in general is key, and we'll make sure that there are no surprises along the way.
For me, there are things that are more easy, let's say, to track and therefore to detect in advance, like whether something wrong is about to happen. I mean, let's say you are tracking, I don't know, the revenue, the margin, or the delivery date or something. I think those are like numbers that can be easily tracked, right? And you can create any process or flow to raise early warnings, right? So if you are reaching that point, like let's take an action, and you can have that, right? You can have a risk register to discuss risks and to set up early warnings, right? And that's fine. And this is like best practices, right? But I think in practice we also have those kind of situations that are not that easy to read, right? And you learn to deal with that basically with experience, right? Because it's not written in any book, right? So for example, let's say you are having regular meetings with the team to discuss features or topics, and you see that you have, 5 or 10 attendees and only one is participating, right? The rest, the 9 of them is not sharing any ideas, any thought, any pushback. So for me, it may be, I may think that, okay, what is happening here is that the scope is not clear, maybe the team is not fully engaged, right? And that is something that is not written anywhere, right? You need to read the room there, right? You need to understand, okay, what may be happening here that may be an issue in the future, because if the team is not really engaged, that can be an issue in the future, right? If the team is not understanding the scope clearly, that can become an issue in the future. They may not be saying anything. They may be saying yes, yes, or like moving their heads, right? But if they are not communicating, maybe there is an issue. Or if the same person is always answering all of the question, you may have an issue with the knowledge distribution, right? You may have one single point of failure because there is only one people in the room that has the knowledge, and if you lose that person, you will be in trouble, right? But again, this is not something that you are tracking. It's something that you need to understand based on the team's dynamic, right? Or I don't know, just to share the last example, right? Let's say you have multiple changes in the scope when you are working with the client, and you notice that you have different stakeholders that share like conflicting responses, right? Or they want different things, right? You may think, okay, I have an issue that the scope keeps changing, that can affect the marginality so far, right? But maybe the issue behind that is that the client doesn't have like the proper strategy in place, because that's why they don't know what to do. That's why they have different people saying different things, trying to move in different directions. So in that case, even though you can apply the best practices to document like the scope changes to defend yourself in terms of the revenue and the margin and the delays, you can also be supporting the client to define the strategy, right? So they know where to go. As Lucas says, not just build something because we need to build something, but to understand why are we building that, right? Is there any purpose for this? Are we trying to achieve any goal for the company, or are we just trying to build something because this is the last trend, right? So yeah, again, to summarize, I think, as I said, there are things that can be easily tracked or monitor, but other stuff I think is just part of like experience, right? And you know what is happening when you see it, when you sense it, right? It's like an art.
What one thing people outside your role usually underestimate the most?
I mean, I think people in general, when they see this role, they only think about maintaining projects on track, right? So I think that's it. That's how they frame it, right? But as we were discussing, in reality, it's much more than that, right? For me, maintaining or trying to maintain the project on track is just like the basics, right? So that's like the pure project management fundamentals, right? You need to know how to track things, how to have at least a couple of artifacts to track things, right? But then in reality, you always need to deal with people, right? And for me, that's the most difficult part, because people are complex, right? We all know it, right? So there are conflict of interest, there are good days, bad days, and you always need to deal with that, right? So in some case, it's not that much about tracking stuff. It's more like negotiating things, right? To calm things down, right? So just to keep people, as I said, calm, right? And with the good mood, right? Because again, we are people and we need to deal with it, right? And as I said, we may have good days, we may have bad days, but still we need to. I like what Lucas said. From this role, we always need to think about the long-term relationship. It doesn't help to have one successful project if we are not going to keep the relationship, right? Because then for me, that may mean that it was not successful at all, right? Because why are we not keeping the relationship if it was successful? Was it successful because we only deliver on time and within the margin? So maybe we defined the wrong KPI to measure, right? I think a successful project is the one that improves the relationship with your clients, right? So you can continue this relationship and grow it over time.
That was a great answer, by the way. I loved it. I really liked it. What I could add to it is that I think something that is usually underestimated is how much effort and time it takes to have a full understanding of the entire, not just our entire portfolio, but also the amount of people that are involved in every project, and understanding who needs to be where, who needs to be doing what, where everything falls, how things can impact one another. Because we are talking about big enterprise projects that require a lot of planning, require a lot of understanding of dependencies and correlation between departments, cross-functional work that needs to always happen, while at the same time building this trust and relationship with the client. That ends up connecting with the second point I wanted to mention, which is once we build this relationship and we try to stay one step ahead of the need, I think something that is usually a bit underestimated is the ability that it requires for you to be able to help the client by proposing ideas and saying, because I know your processes, because I know you're doing this and you're going in this direction, why don't we try this or that approach? Because this might actually give you this X return on investment, because this will actually, make sure that you are more efficient in this and that area, because your time to market is going to improve by this much or that much. That kind of analysis, I think, takes a broad understanding of the business, our processes, the client processes, the team setup, the industry trends, technology. So many things going on at the same time, and which is something that personally makes me love the role itself.
Let me thank you for your answers, your honesty, and let's say your point of view for this position. This is really valuable because I think it was really nice format, to have like two participants here and really live conversation. So different roles, different pathways we have here, same reality we are rolling, and see you next time until the next episode, and keep co-creating.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thanks.